Today, I want to talk about recognizing the patterns of the successful and additionally recognizing the patterns of the unsuccessful. So I've talked about this, but never actually explicitly explained it and what it means for you guys. So I actually keep a note. So I have a little notebook that I don't tend to use, but I keep a note in my phone specifically for this. And what it is the things and patterns that I hear among successful, I'll always write down. Same with unsuccessful, but unfortunately for me, and I'm not saying this with any negative intent or connotations, but where I'm from, it's small town, right? It's small town in the middle of nowhere. You're not going to have, people who mindset and end goal is something on, let's say, a global, not necessarily global level, but a level that is beyond average. Now, there's whole topic on this, but what I'm saying without saying it is basically that, with me, I'm able to recognize the patterns of the unsuccessful way more readily than I am to recognize the patterns of the successful. Now, that holds no negative connotations. I'm just solely saying this. When I like to speak the truth. I like to speak the facts. I believe I never want my emotions to get in the way of anything I make or say, because, most of the time when you act on anger, when you say stuff about anger, it's not good, right? So I'm just coming straight out with that. But I have a specific note and I write down for each. Now, for successful, at this point, I don't even have to. It's certain things. I could probably list like 3 things that just keep occurring. And so yeah, basically, what is this concept? And what does this mean for you guys? So I was actually going to Jasper with a couple of my friends, and he told me this flat out. Like, we weren't talking about the concept I was talking about, but he said, for the people that we paint, he owns this painting business. He's doing really good. He's crushing it, right? He's my age and already running a successful business. But he said for the high level people that he does his painting jobs with, right? Like for the people who own properties, stuff like that. He says the amount of times I've heard people say basically like you just need consistency to basically get to the success where I am is crazy. Now I'm going to use this as the core example for everything I'm going to talk about and how it stems around this. So I want to ask you guys a question. So when you see someone modeling what you want, so let's say, for example, you want to be a good cook, and the best cook in the world, would you say that it's safe to say that you would look to these people for what they're doing, right? The aspects in which make them a good cooker, and would you not employ that into your own self if that is at the end of the day the goal, right? The answer is yes. I can take the words right out of your guys' mouth, right? Subsequently, for sports, right? If there's someone who's better at you than sports, and they're telling you, I notice you're doing this, do this, or they do something that you see over and over and over again that you're not doing, what do you think is the best and most efficient way to go about that, right? It would be to replicate what they're doing or listen to exactly what they're telling you. So for this in a whole, right, in all of general, I want you and this whole thing, basically, you're going to want to reverse engineer success. Now, what that comes down to is taking, a model, right, a role model in whatever specific field that you are looking to, be great in, and just model it, right? Just copy whatever they're doing. One example that I think is an awesome illustration of this. Now, this is outside of personal, but Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, 2 of the most richest men in the world, right? Berkshire Hathaway, Microsoft, 2 of the most well-respected, richest companies in the world. They were both asked if they could have a superpower, what would it be? And interestingly enough, they answered with the same thing. Now, before I tell you what they answered with, I want you to think about that for a second. two of the most successful people in the world, right? 8 billion people. 1 out of every 4 billion people is, the chances of, you being in presence of these people. And both of them, right? 2 in the whole entire world, both of them said the same thing. If you're trying to model any sort of success, right? I know for me, myself, it's financial. Well, not necessarily financial, but I think they're pretty good indicators of living a successful life and employing successful patterns and habits that have made them where they are. Now, if they both say the same thing, you listen up, because if they both hold something so high, if they both, like the number one thing that they hold highly to themselves, if it's the same thing, man, you better start studying, right? Because that's not just a one-off thing. That's not just, because Bill Gates, I think you grew up in like Washington, Seattle area. It's not just because he grew up in Seattle, and Warren Buffett, I think he grew up in the East, right? New York area. It's not just because Warren Buffett grew up in the East. These are two different people, exact same things. So what is this, right? They both said the ability to read faster. Now, just that in and of itself, I'm not going to go in depth into that. I'm going to go, explain the ideas behind that. But they both said if they could have one superpower, it would be to read faster. Now, for you yourself, instantly, what does that mean, right? That means that they read, right, on a consistent basis. I think Warren Buffett, he spends like hours and hours a day reading, right? He's like 96 or whatever. And, he's still probably one of the smartest 96-year-olds you'll ever meet, right? One of the best computing 96-year-olds you'll ever meet. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but so he himself reads, it's hours and hours and hours a day. Now, furthermore, the ability to read faster. They put such an importance on reading that if they could, skyrocket the ability in which they retain the information given, that's what they would do. So there's two aspects to look at it, right? You always want to be looking at stuff from these perspectives, right? Analyze it, pick it apart, find the aspects of this, and then employ it into yourself and into your own situations. So just solely on that, right? Read more. That is one thing, 100%, right? If you want any sort of success modeled around Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, read more, right? It's pretty simple. Now, in a general and overall sense, this doesn't have to be, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett every single time. There's very, very few of those people here in the world. But the people that you want success, and again, this can be as not low of a level, but as common of a level as, again, just modeling someone who's better at you than sports. They obviously are doing something, right? They know something that you don't, which makes them a better player. Now, when you find these people, it doesn't matter to what scale, now with the age of the internet, right? The age of books right to your house, you order a book. I live in the middle of nowhere, and I get a book, like within a week. That is incredible. Now, again, with the age, I'm getting sidetracked. I always get sidetracked. I love to think. I love to, just employ these aspects to you guys. But, again, find these successful people on the internet, on YouTube, in-person mentors, books. Books is a really good way to get mentors, and just learn from people's experiences, what they do, this and that. And find those aspects and employ them, right? It's pretty simple. Now, one of the simplest ways to do this, and for you to employ this, as of right now, just keep a notes on your phone. And whenever you see a person that you want to model success around doing one certain thing, write it down, right? Every single aspect, because this is the goal, right? The goal at the end of the day isn't to just write down the aspects and, go through every single one, right? There's levels to success. The people that you're going to model, the people that you're looking at, chances are probably not the best in the world. And that, it may be hard to distinguish. But, and this is another thing, right? I didn't even think about this, but this kind of came as I was talking. But they may not be number one in the world, but they're pretty up there. And again, that can be such a loaded question. There truly may never be a number one. But if you write down all the, let's say that there's 3 top people in the world, and one of them is better in a certain aspect than others, which weighs them around the same, right? Write down everything you can for number one, right? The number one person that you want to model. Write down everything for number 2 and everything for number 3. Now you're going to get different aspects, you're going to get different behaviors, habits that they're doing. But the goal of this, right, is to find the stuff that happens again and again and again. And that is the whole goal here, right? To find those things that pop out, to find not necessarily those outliers, but those reoccurring themes, right? Those common things that happen. And just model yourself around them, right? Employ ideas of those aspects into your own life. Now, same goes for unsuccessful people, right? Like, I know for me, and I'm going to tell you guys this flat out. Like, you know, I've seen a lot from both sides, but I do, again, have a lot more experience with the unsuccessful side, which no negative connotations. I don't want anyone to think I'm bad-mouthing anyone. But one thing I see, these like work hand in hand with each other. But number one, nothing is ever their fault, right? Nothing is ever the person's fault. And number 2, they complain. They complain about everything. They complain about people. They complain about this and that and that. And then from there, they blame it on their misfortunes, right? Another thing that, you know, I find really upsetting, and I think of it to my extent too, because I always try to be as friendly as I can with people. And like not in a two-faced way, but truly I try to find the good in people. And, you know, I focus on the good, right? Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He says that, right? And then you'll have more success in, you know, making friends, right? Being more sociable, more charismatic, everything like that. And that is the recipe for success, by the way. The quote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, 15% of one's financial success is due to their financial literacy. 85% of it is their ability to interact with people. So, little piece of gold in this, if anyone is actually watching this. But, going back to this, right? They complain, they blame their misfortunes, they blame their failures on other people. And then furthermore, and again, I go off topic, but I try to be as friendly as I can with people. I know a few people, but truly, there's some people that are so bad for it. And they talk bad about one person, then they talk bad about the other person to the other person. I've truly seen some people who have not talked bad about anyone. Who have not talked bad about anyone. Now, the only person within these people's circles that I haven't heard them talk bad about is myself. And I'm starting to wonder, and I mean, at this point, you know, I don't care. These people are how they are. You know, truly, I don't think they have negative malice at the forefront of their actions. It's just the scripts that were written, right? Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? He talks about, you know, the scripts that people have growing up. If you're not aware enough, and if you don't have that model, right? If you don't find the habits of successful people and unsuccessful people, right? How can you know to change, right? They do not know because they do not know. There's another quote, you know, never present pearl before swine. What does that mean? You can't present something good in front of someone who doesn't understand it, in front of someone who won't take that good piece of advice. And, you know, even me as I'm talking, all of these quotes and all of everything I'm saying, this isn't coming just from, like, you know, me trying to sound smart. Truly, this all ties in together, right? Renaissance man, iron sharpens iron, ideas sharpen ideas. Everything I'm talking about here, right? Like, it all comes into one conglomerate. And this right here, this one area I'm talking about is just the conglomerate of all of the successful, you know, habits that you need to employ, the successful thoughts, mindsets that you need to employ. But this one is pretty important, right? But going back to everything, again, go on tangents. I go on tangents. Sorry, I'm not telling you to go on tangents. Man, at the end of the day, you probably wouldn't listen to me anyways. Not in like a negative sense. I'm just saying I haven't proved myself yet, right? The knowledge I have is nothing near where I want it to be, nor nothing near the knowledge of our modern day thinkers, which you should model over. But the people you want to model, analyze them with a stethoscope. Find every aspect that they are doing, right? Every habit, every whatever that, that they're doing, right? In any aspect. Furthermore, right? Find the unsuccessful habits. Find the habits that unsuccessful people are doing. And, unless you live in, let's say, Beverly Hills, which I can't even say Beverly Hills because truly no one is inept to stupidity. Even the best people in the world. We're all human, right? We're not infallible, right? Humans are born imperfect. We know this from the Bible. We know this from you and yourself, our human nature. Civilization and its discontents, right? Our human nature wants to do other things that society models itself around, right? The cost of order comes at the price of suppressing our urges. But that's another topic for discussion. Again, I just want to stick to the topic of this video. But find those unsuccessful habits, right? And don't employ them, right? I guarantee you there's a lot of universal habits that you and I are apt to doing. The people who do these over and over and over again, make sure that you're avoiding it. Make sure that, whatever you're doing is in contrast to these unsuccessful habits. Find the habits, right, that these successful people denounce even, right? Like I know for me, it's such a big pet peeve of mine when people, talk negatively. People talk bad about other people. They blame their misfortunes on others. I've heard this so much, I'm getting to the point where I just tell people flat out, like, why do you think this? Why do you do this? Like, truly, I'm trying to get an understanding, but I can't judge people. Judge thou not, and ye shall not be judged. Abraham Lincoln, something like that, right? Idea of it. Don't judge people, right? Who are you to judge? Who am I, the king of the damned, to cast judgment on prospect of being, I don't know, Jordan Peterson. But at the end of the day, what does this all mean, right? I just spew and spew and spew. Do things that successful people do. Avoid things that unsuccessful people do. Analyze and find what successful people do. Employ them into your own life, into all your aspects that you're looking to improve on. And you will be more successful, right? It's as simple as that. Hang around 4 millionaires, you will become the 5th. Hang around 4 losers, you will become the 5th. And this isn't just Liam wisdom. So many people have said this. When you hear or see a recurring theme, I know me for AI, doing so much research on AI. These great thinkers, Stephen Hawking, Darren, I forget his name, but some, Nobel Prize winner in microeconomics. Bill Gates, right? Sam Altman, grandfather of AI, they all saying the same thing. When you hear something over and over and over again from reputable sources, and I'm not saying the news, right? The news is the most, I can't say that. This is another can of worms, which truly I am not knowledgeable enough to start a conversation on. But I do know, find those, employ those, and you will be more successful in your life. So that's my 2 cents. At the end of the day, I'm trying to build a personal brand. If you guys haven't been following me, just trying to build a personal brand, documenting every single day concepts, ideas, aspects, things I've learned on my journey that I can share with you guys, share with hungry entrepreneurs like yourself, which I hope is who are watching, right? I hope that if you're watching this, you have goals, you have ambitions bigger than the average person. And I hope that, you took some 2 cents from my talk today. So, that being said, if you guys stick to the 20th minute of this, thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more, follow my journey. Subscribe, follow, wherever you're watching or consuming this from. With that being said, hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and above all, stay wise.